Good afternoon, everyone. 4:30 on a Thursday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Hope everyone had a good Sports Wednesday, and you are enjoying your Thursday, the 20th of November, 2025. As always, get in on the conversation on X on multiple platforms. You can hashtag On Cue. Don't forget to get social with me. Very, very easy to do. At Rich Q and Q, X and IG, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. And as I mentioned, a heavy NFL football show on this. I guess, did we decide if we're going with the thought out Thursday, right? That kind of, we go from, getting over the hump with the Woosah Wednesday to the third thought out Thursday. And then we get to the What the Frig Friday football edition. New episode, Back Your Play, dropping manana with myself and Lloyd Vance. We will run through the gamut of another weekend in the NFL. And as I mentioned, too, also, we want to make sure we tell you guys that we are powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase, BYP20. And, of course, Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. And our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 2 locations, Deptford and South Jersey. So I don't even know, where do we begin today on a Thursday when every time we think all is calm, every time we think it's going to be a, just a light day in the world of sports, an easy day in the world of sports, we get more drama. We get more drama coming down with the fallout. Quarterback Jalen Hurts, wide receiver A.J. Brown, the whole 9 yards with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's still, I am the biggest believer in where there is smoke, there has to be some fire. But you've got drama going all over the place in the NFL. I mean, we've got potential burner accounts. Joe Shane, New York Football Giants, my Giants, a laughing stock right now. 10-point dogs against Detroit. They might get their fannies whipped. You got someone that's texting left and right trying to defend Joe Shane, and then you kind of put everything together. It's almost like Colangelo, burner account a couple years ago. We got Cincinnati, for some inexplicable reason, they want to play Joe Burrow on Sunday. You got the mothership, the rat ship, basically calling out Drake May. You got Aaron Rodgers with his injury. So, I mean, it just never stops when we talk about the NFL and football. We'll sprinkle in, we'll mix in a little college. Want to get into a little NBA, a little association as well. But as I alluded to, this, I guess you can say this drama that is going on right now with the Philadelphia Eagles, it's almost to this point where you have to be realistic and you have to be objective and you got to be fair. And I am of the belief, as I told you, where there's smoke, there's fire. So what happens when you've got a former Eagle come out? And in this case, DeSean Jackson, now head coach of Delaware State, doing a pretty good job with the Hornets, Delaware State. But D-Jax came out on his pod and basically said, look, man, there's a lot more going on than we think. There's a lot more going on than we see. He's hinting at a divide between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, all-world, all-pro wide receiver, franchise quarterback coach. Something else is going on. So in his recent podcast, House of Action, he said, quote, as you can tell, something else going on. And remember, he retired in 2023 with the Eagles after 15 years, right? He had 2 stints with Philadelphia. And I got a great relationship with him. I respect him. I can't say it, but I know it's something else going on. It's not all about football. It's not all about X's and O's. I've had relationships with quarterbacks I didn't necessarily like. Pause right there. And I'm going to just be honest. And when it ain't there, it sticks out like a sore thumb. That's all I'm going to say. Now, you leave a lot, again, up to, interpretation. And again, I know everyone's going to come out and there's going to, you can listen to DJack's pod. You can listen to what Shady McCoy said. You can listen to what Kelsey said. You can listen to what Newton said. You got to remember one thing. DeSean Jackson most likely has a very good relationship with who? If I was going to be pressed, I would say A.J. Brown. And I'm sure receiver to receiver, all world, all pro to all pro, they talk. Now, remember, Jalen Hurts is A.J. Brown's daughter's godfather. So they're supposed to be really tight, these two, right? They're supposed to have a really good relationship, period. They're supposed to have a really good relationship. So it really depends on who you're listening to. Someone who's probably tight with AJ Brown, or someone maybe who's 6, 7, 8 years removed from the game, or someone that still has little input in what's going on in the organization. I'm actually going to lean a little more towards DeSean Jackson right now. And I got a couple reasons why. Because I believe stuff is being leaked right now within the organization. I believe there's anonymous sources. And remember, Derek Gunn is very tight with who? DeSean Jackson. DeSean Jackson is tight with who? A.J. Brown. So when everyone was kind of getting on Gunner regarding what he said and the disconnect and all this, you got to actually lay out all the facts here. You got to read the room. You got to go step by step. Now, again, when you have another veteran coming out like Brandon Graham, see, this is what you don't want. Now you got to start to deal with this. You got to start having answers and dialogue and debates and discussions on what's going on with these two. And we can speculate all we want. We can sit there and say, here we go. We can sit there and say that, this person's right, this person's wrong. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to speculate. I said this a month and a half ago, that there's something going on with this Eagles offense. And you guys came on the air and basically said, you're nitpicking. You're just saying it to say it. There's nothing wrong with this offense. They're going to be fine. Well, comes to fruition right now that this offense has just major issues. Major issues. And quite frankly, listen, I don't really give a shit what player comes out and says what. But I know relationship to relationship. I know how these players are. I've been in locker rooms for 20 plus years. I speak to players. I know players, former players, current players. I can tell you this. There's shit going on right now between these two. Period. It's not breaking news. There's a big time disconnect, and it could be the most trivia thing. It could be the most asinine thing. It could be something that's between boys, between friends, between guys, code of the street, the ethics. I don't know. But it's seeping into the play on the field. So you want to listen to podcast A, B, C, D, I don't care. Ultimately, there is a disconnect. When you got Greg Cosell, a highly respected NFL pundit that knows film like the back of his hand, and he's like, hold on a second, this is deeper than Jalen Hurts. It's deeper than A.J. Brown. Then obviously the next elephant in the room is the offensive coordinator, who, oh, by the way, Nick Sirianni decided to hire, and that's his guy. So in a season, once again, in a season where it's laid out for the Philadelphia Eagles, laid out, just roll the red carpet out there, laid out to basically waltz, to just waltz, walk into the Super Bowl. Seriously, into the Super Bowl, to just waltz. You got drama going on. And I get it. Listen, here's the thing. Kelsey, well-respected Eagle. 100%. 100%. Well-respected former Eagle, right? Franchise player. Does the pod, popular pod, can shed clarity and light, and he can give you all the insight. But even he doesn't know what the hell's going on. Because it's between two men, right? It's between two men. So there is unrest, period. There's just unrest. And like I said, maybe, Jalen Hurts is the type of guy that he's just been doubted his entire life and career. So now when Jalen Hurts turns around and he's got to be the man in Philadelphia, he's taking that serious. Whereas, say, like a player in A.J. Brown, talented was always the man, maybe things came easier for him. And maybe we're starting to see a little bit of that bleed over in the disconnect. I mean, don't be overly sensitive to who's saying a what here. And don't believe everything you hear from who's saying what here. Sean could be exaggerating a little bit, but I know he's got relationships with A.J. Brown, and Kelsey could be exaggerating a little bit. There's two sides to every story, but the only two that know what's going on, the gripe, the riff, the issue, is A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I mean, we can't even debate that. And I'm sorry if some of you guys are sensitive to it, then tune out, close your ears. And if something it's petty and trivial, and it's something that you sit there and say, oh, this is ridiculous. This is embarrassing. These two need to squash it. Like, go out, grab some food, have a couple beers, and freaking hug it out. Because it's now getting to the point where it's starting to bleed into the locker room, and you have to have players, current players, answer it. Current players have to respond to it. Jalen Hurts is a different kind of animal, man. He is a different cat. He is. He is a different cat. That's all it is. And I think, he's obsessed with his craft. He's just businesslike. He's matter of fact. He goes about his business. And, it might rub people. Maybe he's not a guy that hangs out with the players afterwards. Maybe he's not a guy that goes bowling with them or grabs beer or goes over their house and have barbecues and watch. Maybe he's all about football. But A.J. Brown was the one that initially came out and vented his frustrations on Twitch. Right? He did. And when you get a former player that's basically saying these two are not on the same page, and again, you got another former player that's basically saying, look, I hate seeing this. The only way out of this, this fully, and the only way, you talk to people, you be accountable, you try and work it out. He's 100% correct. What Kelsey is saying is 100% correct, but it goes deeper than that. If you've got personalities that don't want to hash it out, then that is an issue. That is an issue. When you have one player and again, I don't know, but if you have one player that's showing up to the office or one worker or employee that's showing up to the office early and they're putting in the time, then you have someone maybe slacking off who's had everything handed to him. That one employee is going to feel a certain way. I'm not saying this is the case right now, but we know Jalen Hurts doesn't smile. Jalen Hurts is Super Bowl MVP. He barely cracked a grin. That's how he's wired. That shouldn't be a negative towards Jalen Hurts. You can joke and say, hey, man, smile once in a while. That's just who this guy is. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It doesn't mean he's a likable or unlikable cat. For everyone that's chimed in over the last several years that Jalen Hurts has been the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles since he became a full-time starter, and I had so many people sit there and say they weren't sold on him. And objectively, I back Jalen Hurts. I would go on the record and say, yeah, he's got to play better, but I think he's a decent quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. He's a talented quarterback. He's going to frustrate the hell out of you, but he can make plays. All he does is win. I put something up on TikTok the other day. I mean, you get hundreds of Eagles fans chiming in. I'm like, listen to exactly what I'm saying. Like, pay attention. Don't just take a small tidbit and then draw your own conclusion, just like a title, a header, something's tagged, and right away, oh, this guy's an idiot. This guy's a clown. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm not saying I know what I'm talking about, but I'm pretty accurate, and I'm pretty honest, and I'm pretty objective. And what I see right here, I see you've got a player that's just businesslike, and you've got another player that wants his. And that's typically what wide receivers do. That's how wide receivers act. And there is a boiling point to that. Having to constantly go back into the huddle and your wide receiver is barking at you. Or maybe just despite him, not looking in his direction, not seeing the field. Nobody knows what's going on between those two except those two. The players can have an idea. The coaching staff can have an idea. The coordinator can have an idea. The guys like D. Gunn can have an idea. DeSean Jackson can have an idea. Kelsey can have an idea. But at the end of the day, it's about to derail their season. It is. It's going to derail their season. You've got an opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl. And by the way, I don't want to hear this nonsense if he goes out and gets 9 balls, catches 9 balls for $136 and 2 touchdowns, all as well. No. You won. So in that regard, yes. But the relationship is fractured. And we've seen this in the past. We've seen this between quarterback, wide receiver. We've seen this in the NBA. We've seen this in the NFL. We've seen it with quarterback and coach, quarterback and wide receiver. I mean, this is nothing new. All I'm trying to, just convey or just, say is that you've got an opportunity. The Philadelphia Eagles have an opportunity that's very rare in sports. They have an opportunity to defend their crown. They have an opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl, to repeat, to defend. It's hard to do. It's so hard to do. And offensively, they haven't had the type of explosive season. That is a fact. Saquon hasn't really gone off. Devontae Smith has emerged as the better wide receiver right now. And maybe that's rubbing A.J. Brown the wrong way. You got to play the hot hand. You have to play the hot hand. But eventually, you also have to iron it out. That's all. Rumors have it starting early today. Yeah, we fired off at 4:30. Luca Brazzi, sensitive as they come. You report DJ's pod, but not the New Heights pod where Jason Kelsey said there's no fire. There's fire. There's fire. QR spite picking your pods to the narrative you want. No, not really. Go listen to something else then. Hertz only cares about winning, which is good. He doesn't care about other player stats or incentives. Everyone kind of knows that. Is this breaking news? And I'm not trying to push anything. Honestly, I really don't care who's saying it. I'm just telling you what I know, and I know D-Jax is pretty tight with A.J. Brown, and I know D. Gunn is pretty tight with D-Jax and A.J. Brown. And I'm not saying that Derek Gunn's leaking anything. I'm not saying any of that stuff. What I'm saying is this. It's pretty evident, it's pretty friggin' clear that at the end of the day, there's a disconnect. And if Eagles fans can't see that, if they can't see it's affecting the offense and the play along with the vanilla offense and play calling by the offensive coordinator, then you guys are friggin' clueless. That's all. You're clueless. We're going to get a lot into the quarterbacks today because, you see some of these, these talking heads on the rat ship taking shots at Drake May, which we're going to get into, and then the Joe Burrow situation, which I feel if you're Cincinnati, shut him down for the rest of the season. Shut him down for the rest of the season. There's absolutely no reason on God's green earth that Burrow should be playing the rest of the season. None. It's a lost season. So we got week 12 tonight. It starts Bills and the Texans. We got some updated injuries that not only could affect what's going on with your fantasy, your gambling, but you as a fan. We'll get into that as well. Keep it locked in. Fast approaching to 5 o'clock straight up. Don't forget, we are powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase. Get ready with tea. 3 Brooks Bourbon. Jersey Shore Breaks getting set to embark season number 2, but the first in the USBL in March. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. Keep it locked into a Thursday edition of On Cue. All right, fast approaching the 5 o'clock hour. A lot of comments coming in, and we will get into them in a moment. As I mentioned, Thursday night football tonight. You got some injuries of note. Daniel Jones, limited participant. Lamar Jackson as well. Bills and the Texans. We talked a little bit about this yesterday with the potential seat getting pretty hot for some of these coaches. A big spot for McDermott and the Bills on the road. They are a 5.5 favorite against the Texans, who are starting to find a little bit of a groove here. Aaron Rodgers, a little banged up as well. We'll get into that. I did want to mention, too, before we get into more of these comments, the whole Burrow situation, because, again, you know, I'm trying to think, trying to rationalize, right? Like, what's the point of playing him? It makes no sense. It's a lost season. He is a franchise quarterback. He's an MVP candidate, right? And I don't see any reason why you throwing him out there. You're throwing him out there against a pretty damn good defense in New England to a red hot team. It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. That's great. He's one step closer, but this is a lost season for Cincinnati. It just, you want to leave the door open for what? For him going down? He's an injury prone quarterback. Cincinnati's 3-7. They're probably not beating the Patriots with Burrow. They're not going to go on the road and beat the Ravens and the Bills. I mean, they're staring down the barrel of a 10-loss season. It's done. So why are you going to take a risk? Why are you going to take a shot, chance it with a, franchise quarterback that has been injury prone? I don't see it, man. I think it's just ridiculous. You're talking about a quarterback that tore his ACL, MCL, PCL during his rookie season. He had the wrist ligament ended his 2023 season, right? He had the torn ligament in his thumb in September. The dislocated pinky back in 2021, an MCL sprain in 2022, a calf strain in 2023. Breaking the bone in his throwing hand at Ohio State back in 2017. I mean, just constant. All the games missed. And you're going to throw him out there? For what? Zach Taylor's throwing him out there to try to save his hiney, right? Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, pretty fired up over Sanders making his first career start. I know you mentioned this the other day. Let's not overreact if the kid plays poorly. Let's not overreact if the kid balls out. Couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. This is a really interesting weekend in the NFL. Week 12, starting to separate some teams. You're starting to look at some of these teams as the real legit contenders. By the way, we got our first flex. Week 14, Chicago, Green Bay. That's going to be played at 4:25. Okay. That's Sunday, December 7th on Fox. Cincinnati, Buffalo, which is smart. They're going to flex that. That's going to be bounced back to 1 o'clock. That's not a 4:25 game. Give me Chicago. Give me Green Bay. You got playoff implications, NFC North implications on the line. Period. Let me see what you guys have to say. Mark and Wally times in Q. It's not that I'm disagreeing with you, but here's the thing. If Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown really have a problem, then yes, they have to hash it out. But let's be honest. The media overblows everything, including yourself. If they go out and they ball out and they beat the Dallas Cowboys by 20 points and he has a big-time game and all is good, then guess what? This is forgotten by Monday. I don't think it is. I really don't. It's just my opinion. Matty Pats fan chimes in. Q, I know you're going to talk about this. Please. I'm chomping it a bit. Let me know what you thought about First Take today. I don't watch the show. You guys know this. I brought up Drake May because I saw it come across my feed that Solitary A called Drake May a liar. And, it's becoming the point where you're giving a microphone to these guys and you are so Cam Newton. So let's walk back for a second. Let's walk back. Cam Newton who is extremely opinionated. And I think Cam Newton has a little hater in him. I do. I think he has a little hater in him. I think Cam Newton comes off as kind of a jealous cat at times. A lot of times, he does tend to hate on quarterbacks that are successful or already had more success than he has had in his entire NFL career. So I guess today, right? ESPN, well, First Take, Solitary fired back at Drake May because Drake May was on WEI, which is a big time sports talk station in Boston. And he said he didn't know what show Newton was on, adding that he was more worried about what goes on within the Pats organization than what people on TV have to say. So, again, I think, there's nothing wrong with that because Newton basically said, hey, man, it's fool's gold, right? Seemed to have struck a nerve at ESPN. So, whatever. So then today, Solitary A turns around and says Drake May is a liar, which is Bush League. And then he goes on to add First Take is the number one morning show. Don't tell me you an athlete and you don't know that. Don't tell me you're an athlete. You don't know that Cam Newton was on the show. You're lying. That's what he said. I got news for you. I don't watch that show, and I got news for you. I know a lot of people that don't watch that crap. I got more news for you. I know a lot of people that have basically turned out ESPN years ago. Turned out ESPN, the rat ship, the mothership, RSPN years ago. But this is what happens when you give a microphone, you pay millions of dollars, and you give them a platform. These idiots, because that's what they are, sound like a bunch of friggin' clowns. And you guys want to keep feeding into it. Like, the problem is you actually think people are setting their watch, their dial, their clock, their TV to when you guys come on the air and yap. They're not doing it. They're not. They're not. The problem is you got a former quarterback that's just pissing on a kid because that's what he does. And the fact that one of the hosts basically said, hey, quote, Cam Newton said the Pats are fool's gold, so what's Drake May's going to take exception to that, right? That's his franchise. He's a franchise quarterback. It is what it is. You don't pay attention to the outside noise. Good for Drake May. It's like they're astonished. These guys are astonished that people don't listen to them. Come on. Like, I'm sorry, I got news for you. No one gives a shit about that show except you guys that are on the panel. I mean, believe it or not, I still listen to sports talk, but I'll listen to New York sports talk. I don't listen to Philly sport. I don't. I never have, never will. And I don't watch these shows. They're these talking head shows. It's all the same crap. It's a waste of friggin' time. I got work to do. I got content. I got prep. I got broadcast. I don't have time for this. It's the same crap. It's LeBron, the Lakers, Cleveland, the Yankees, Dallas Cowboys. It's just recycle, recycle, recycle. Come up with something new. Come up with something new. But again, man, you can't be a talking head making $100 million or whatever the hell it is on the rat ship, and you turn around and you're calling these pro athletes liars. Your ego is that friggin' big? I mean, you think you're that guy that everyone's tuning in like clockwork? Just stop already, man. You're all expendable at the end of the day. Eventually, they're all going to rub people the wrong way, some of these hosts, and that's going to be it. So, Matt, your long-winded answer is, I don't really give a shit. And good for Drake May. Good. I mean, it's bad enough you got Solitary A pushing a shady app. Have fun with that. Yeah, I just don't care. I don't. Drake May is an exceptional quarterback. He will go on and most likely probably have a much longer and distinguished career than Cam Newton. Cam Newton, had a nice little burst for a couple years. And Cam Newton was the best quarterback in the NFL. What was it? 2015. MVP, hands down, 15-1, and then decides I'm not falling on the football in the Super Bowl. Cam Newton's a hater. He hates on quarterbacks, just like Chris Sims does. They kind of pick and choose what quarterbacks they don't like. Burrow might want to play since he needs to tell him to take a seat. That's fine. That's fine. But we shouldn't even be having that conversation, man. He might want to play, all well and good. Sit your ass down. You're not playing. Now, is this a question where Zach Taylor actually feels like his job is not secure? So he wants to throw Burrow out there, risk injury so he can get some wins and save his ass? I don't know. I don't. And look, if he's healthy, I, I just think you have to be really careful here, man. This team is not good. Their defense gives up a lot of points. Their offensive line is extremely suspect. They've dropped 3 in a row, 7 of 8. You got the Pats, the Ravens, Bills, the Ravens again, the Dolphins, the Cardinals. I don't see any type of reasoning to have him out there. I really don't. I think you're playing with fire. I do. That's just me. I think you're playing with fire. Tom and Summers point. Q. Here's my thought on your opening monologue. You know, you and I have always disagreed over the past several years. You know, I used to give it to you when you were down on the radio. But your point on A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts just being man-to-man and having to hash it out is absolutely 100% correct. We have no idea what the hell's going through the both of them. They can speculate all we want. You can listen to whoever you want. But at the end of the day, they are millionaires. They make a lot of money. And you know me, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. The last thing I want is this team to implode. You are getting closer and closer, Tom, to having this team implode. You are. You are getting closer and closer to having this team that has an opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl and defend their crown and go back to back. That might all come shot to shit. Because the quarterback, the wide receiver, the offensive coordinator, the head coach, the offense as a whole, they are not on the same page. Stevie P chimes in, Q, you know I love you to death, brother. And I'm with you. I don't give a shit what solitary Stephen A has to say. Nor should you. Nor should you. It becomes caricature. It becomes a caricature. That's all it is. That's it. It becomes a character. I mean, you know, eventually you keep taking shots at people and it's going to bite you in the ass. It really is. It's going to bite you in the ass. And again, I'm all for having an opinion. And I don't mind going, you know, down that rabbit hole. Like the one thing I think you guys will or have already learned about me, or those that have listened to me for years, I'm not afraid to be opinionated. I'm not afraid to go back and forth. And I'm certainly not afraid to not touch certain topics that might rub people the wrong way, that might be uncomfortable for some people, right? And I think what happens now is you've got a network that, and let's just call for what it is at times, has hosts that really, instead of just having a friendly debate, they want to do what? They want to be outlandish. They want to do the 180, the contrarian. They want to race bait at times with certain things. And we know who they are. After a while, the smart fan, the smart individual, the smart human kind of gets it and realizes, I don't have time for this nonsense. It's a waste. It's not entertainment. It's not even shock value. It's just I call it romper room radio. That's what I used to call it, romper room radio. Because I had guys that came on after me when I did my show, Romper Room Radio. I had guys that were before me, Romper Room Radio. The difference with the guys that were before me, they weren't lazy like the jackasses after me that decided, oh, we can get a couple hours of good content because Q was on the air. Romper Room Radio, right? And after a while, you just you don't even feed into it anymore. You just don't. Broncos country, Lex Ride, Miguel times 2 chimes in. It was the beginning of the end for Cam Newton after the Super Bowl 50 L to Denver. Yeah, that Q. Yes, 100%. 100%. And I think, you know, here's the other thing. You know, Cam Newton late in his career kind of bounced around. You know, we're going to try to, resurrect Cam Newton's career with who? I mean, think about that for a minute. Carolina, New England. He had the cup of coffee with New England and then went back to Carolina in 2021. There are just some quarterbacks out there that don't like other quarterbacks because they're more successful. That's just how it is, right? The Eagle Circus as the top NFC team right now is just ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know how. So let's talk about this for a minute, Michael. You can be good and still be a circus. 77, 78 New York Yankees, right? The Bronx is burning. Those Lakers teams were dysfunctional, but they were winning. Um, the 49ers were a well-oiled machine. The Steelers had a little dissension because Bradshaw always wanted to get traded. But I'm also going back 20, 30 years ago. I had someone on Facebook say, you know what? All you do is kind of just yap, yap, yap on the air and you talk about the same crap. Like you need to basically leave these guys alone. Well, here's the problem. And you're entitled to your opinion. And he's probably tuning in right now. The problem is this. When players come out and they peel back the curtain and they give you something as fodder or go on social media. Now, let me preface it by saying this. When I see beat reporters say, oh my God, AJ Brown unfollowed the Eagles on IG and X, it's like, that's childish. I don't care. But when a player or AJ Brown, they turn around and they go, let me start talking about not getting the ball, resting me, sitting me, not getting my reps, my targets, or where defensive players basically come out and say, well, the offense got to pick us up. We can't do it all. Like back and forth, right? So social media, we take it and they just, it implodes on social because everyone believes everything they see, hear, and read on social media. And we know it's a cesspool. We know it is a cesspool. Like you can spin any narrative, agenda, any comment, and you can get them to, suck into it. And all of a sudden, you're just leading the sheep. You're just leading the sheep. Here we go. But when the players come out and say certain things and they're on record, then we have to talk about it. When the players come out and don't give 100% effort, we have to talk about it. When the film doesn't lie about players breaking around. I had people telling me the other day, same old Jameis Winston. What are you talking about? You have no idea what you're talking about. Jalen Hyatt didn't run the route. That's on Hyatt. But because you go to social media, Winston was good for a pick. Yeah, sure, we laughed about it. But if you're being fair, that's because you got a bust of a friggin' wide receiver that doesn't give a shit about playing hard in the NFL, run a half-ass route. And then Winston, who played his heart out, throws a pick. Like there's miscommunication. That's on the wide receiver. But the film doesn't lie. But social media will tell you a different tale, a different side, a different story. So when I turn around and I have someone sitting there saying, oh man, here we go. You know what? You need to just leave AJ Brown. Why? I'm not the one reporting what was going on the other day. That was Derek Gunn. I'm not the one reporting that there's the rift. You can see it. It's like anything else. We've all gone through it as sports fans. You've got an unhappy player and it bleeds in. We had the same crap in Philadelphia with T.O. and McNabb. Come on. We had the same crap with the Giants and Eli and Beckham. Beckham goes on friggin' ESPN after the Giants give him a solid and give him a contract extension. And he calls his Hall of Fame quarterback under the bus. And Beckham didn't do dick after that. He didn't. Beckham's career was made with the Giants. That is a fact. You take Eli away from Beckham, Beckham's a third-rate wide receiver. Third-rate wide receiver. What have you done since? So I've seen all this drama. It's always played out. And people, the one thing I can tell you, I know for a fact. I know this to be not even debatable. It's an undisputable fact. Players leak shit to the media. I know that. I know that because they've done it to me. They leak stuff to the media. They want, if they trust you, they want certain things that get out there. Front offices leak certain things to the media. Guys they're comfortable with, some of the beat writers, some of the old school guys that know how to hold on to their sources and hold water, they leak stuff out because they know they will pen it, they will put it a certain way that doesn't come back and bite them in the ass. And that's what they do. And all I'm trying to say is when you've got a season like this, and I think we can all agree the NFL product is down. The NFL product is down. I told you this. In August, New England, will we sit there, New England, Denver, and the Colts, top three teams in the AFC? Well, Michael might say Denver, yes, but you know what I'm saying. The Bears, Carolina, Dallas in the playoff hunt. No, nobody was saying that. Nobody was saying that, guys. Come on. The product is down. It's not a good product. And that's all the more reason, if you're an Eagles fan, to be worried. That's all the more reason, if you're an Eagles fan, to have a little bit of trepidations. That's all the more reason, if you're an Eagles fan, to kind of take a step back and say, oh my God, I can't believe this. We've got an opportunity to repeat. Do you think the circus details them officially this year? Oh, I missed a couple comments. I'm sorry. Eagles circus. I'm sorry. Let me go back here. NFL as a whole is down. Most of it is based on the quarterback play and atrocious coaching. Can you imagine if the Bunker Boys had a Twitter account? They might. I'm not even going to read that. Beckham had a lot of big plays for the Rams their Super Bowl year. I hate to say it, but it's true. He did. But, ultimately, he also got hurt, and he's a journeyman wide receiver. He made his bones with the Giants, let's be honest. The worst thing that happened to Beckham was having that catch against the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. I think the bunker needs a pod that Q can report on. I mean, yeah, that's great. I'm sure you'll get great reception, then you'll get wrenches being thrown and gavels being thrown in the mountains. Yeah, I got news for you. That's not going to fly on Spotify, my friend, or Apple, or iTunes. I'm just being honest. If the Bunker Boys put a podcast together, I would subscribe to it. I would. I'm not going to hate. I would listen to it. I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't. I'm just being honest. But if the Bunker Boys put a pod together where you had Mountain Man in the mountains and you had gavels being thrown in the courtroom and you had Johnson rods and wrenches being thrown and you were kind of talking football, I would probably tune in. I would give it a go. I would give it an honest assessment and critique. I would. Because I'm here to help out. That's all. Joe D in Philly chimes in. Q. Pump the brakes. There's no drama. Nothing to see here, brother. All is well. 33-13 Birds over the Dallas Cowboys, those stinking rats. Oh, by the way, A.J. Brown, 6 for 135. 2 TDs. Yeah, I'm not. Joe, come on. Not happening. I'll tell you this right now. The Dallas Cowboys, that's a live spot for the Dallas Cowboys. That's a live spot. Now, you want to sit there and tell me that because of this drama, the Eagles are going to rally around each other? I'm not really feeling that. Eagles are 3.5-point road favorite against the Cowboys, who score a lot of points at home. I think they're averaging like 34 points at home. Well, we'll see how it plays out come Sunday. And even if they get the win, I still stand by what I said. Right now, I don't believe they're the best team in the NFC. I don't. Well, now you're just trying to appease me and flatter me. And I got to be honest, it's working. I mean, go ahead. Give me my flowers, will you? I appreciate that. I would be honored if you guys had a pod. I never say no. I don't. I really don't. I do spots during the week on smaller stations across the country. I enjoy it. I really do. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to say no, right? I'm not going to do that because let's be honest. I was there once too, right? What do we got here? Glenn chimes in. Q, I know you were talking about the quality of play the other day, but let's go back and talk about the evaluation of talent. It's just not there when we're talking about the quarterbacking position. It's not. I think Madman brought that up, to be honest, right? Q, you need a bunker podcast name, right? Oh, wow. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's not bad. The Rat Pack. If the B Boys had a pod, it would be like Hank the Angry Dwarf and Beetlejuice trying to figure out. Oh my goodness! First, first endorsement would be layup. By the way, I have a couple cans in the refrige from an event last week that the Breaks did, and layup was also along with Get Ready with Tea and Three Brooks Bourbon was also there. Going back to the quarterbacking play, I think the Madman brought this up. I think Vince also brought this up a couple times. Um, it's just bad. The evaluation of talent when it comes to the quarterbacking position is just off. And I also, in my heart of hearts, believe that it's set up in the NFL a lot of times where these GMs and these head coaches, especially if they're drafting and they're on the hot seat and they're going to draft a quarterback, they need to win now. They need to win now. G fan chimes in. Q, what'd you think of the burner account? You think it's Joe Shane or not? Ha ha ha. You know, it's very bizarre that now I don't know if you guys have seen this on X, and I don't. Let me see if I can find this cat's account. I gotta follow my boys from Giants Nation that follow me. There's an account out there, and a lot of Giant fans believe that Joe Shane, the GM of the Giants, it's a burner account, or it's someone in his family, or if it's his kid, it's his wife, it's someone because they're constantly defending Joe Shane. But the avatar is like a little egghead, this, that, the other thing. So it's just funny, right? And I think that you need to kind of be careful, right? If you go that route, a GM in professional sports should not really have anything to do with social media. That's for the PR team. It really is. And if you got your kids on it, that's even worse, right? Sleeper G's chimes in. Q, did you see that your boy Scattaboo didn't understand why the Giants and Eagles hate each other? How do you not like this kid, right? I guess he got offended. He didn't know why someone said, go Eagles. I'll never forget. I took my cousin to an Eagles game. It wasn't, I'll tell you exactly what game it was because it was the Ron Dixon play. It would have been like one of the all-time greatest endings in a football game, and the Eagles and Giants. The Giants were down, they came back. I want to say it was 2002, maybe. It was a cold friggin' day. I think it was after New Year's. No, it wasn't 2002 because the Giants were 10-6 that year. It might have been 2001. It was at the Vet. It was freezing that day. It was it. You know what? I pulled it up. It was December 30th. It was December 30th, 2021. The Giants were up 21-14 because the Great Dane, I'll never forget. I was fired up. Jimmy Fossil with the call, and I stood up. Great effing call, Jimmy Fossil. Ron Dane off tackle. Here we go. Giants are up 24-14. Eagles score. They tied up 21-21. Akers kicks a field goal from 35 out with 7 seconds left. The Giants had the ball right around the 30, 25 of the Eagles, and Kerry Collins hits Tiki Barber over the middle, and he then, just flips it back to a streaking, curling Ron Dane, and he's running right down the sideline. You can pull up the Google clip of it. Literally, a convoy All he needs to do is basically cut it in quickly and he's scoring. And the Giants are winning a game in improbable fashion. That would have been their miracle at the Meadowlands, right? Their vindication at the vet, whatever. Doesn't happen. He's tackled like right around the 1 or 2 yard line. So, all right, everyone's cheering. I'm walking out. And I see these girls and they all had like blue on and their backs were towards me. And the one turned around, she's like, yeah, good game. I was like, yeah, man, good game, Giants, And they're like, yeah, good game, Giants. And they turn around, all the blue that they had, it gave the appearance they were Giants fans, and they turn around and right across their shirt, on their jackets, on their shirt, basically said, Giants can go effing, 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 right? So, like, I was laughing. It was funny because, yeah, I'm not, you're not going to say anything. You lost the game. It's not a big deal. People get in your face, whatever. Ha, 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 not the end of the world. But point is, Scadaboo's got to understand about that rivalry. I mean, it is still a rivalry. It's a lopsided rivalry, 100%, but he's got to understand that rivalry. And that's what makes the NFC and the NFC East so special. And that's what makes some of these rivalries so special, because of the fan bases. But it was just a funny story at the time that it happened. Have you ever had a rat problem, and how do you get rid of them? Asking for a friend. Listen, a couple of things you want to do here, Mike. You want to, I think the best way to get rid of rats is sometimes you just gotta, you gotta air out the dirty laundry. You gotta open up all the doors. If they're running around, it's like the Titanic when it's sinking. You just got to open up windows, doors, set some traps, set a little cheese, but you also have to be a little more aggressive. You got to force them out there, because rats are stubborn. Rats are stubborn. They just hang around. They nibble, and they kind of take your soul. Like the Bunker Boys, we know who they are. They are a bunch of rat Eagles fans, and they basically just come out of the woodwork when the Eagles win. When the Eagles lose, which has been rare, you never really hear from them. But I think what's going on here with the Eagles and some of their fans is this. They're starting to get a little worried. They're starting to get a little worried because they understand they're not. See, the smart rat basically doesn't eat the cheese. The smart rat stores the cheese like a squirrel with nuts in the wintertime. Building a little equity in the bank, right? Just in case it's a cold, harsh winter, you got some nuts to eat. But some of these rats, they get greedy. They get fat. They get lazy. It's exactly what they do. It's exactly what they do. So now you've got a situation, some of these rat Eagles fans, they should nibble on the cheese, because I'm telling you right now, it might come down to, a fluky call, a bounce of the ball, home field advantage on the line. Nothing's locked up right now for this team. And I can see them going into Dallas and Dallas winning the football game. I can. So again, to answer your question, don't even waste money on an exterminator. You don't even need the woman from Poltergeist to come in and say, this house is rat clear. You don't even have to open up the doors. You don't even have to fumigate. Open up the doors, sit back, a little woosah, a little incest, right? A little sprinkle, a little juju, and boom, here we go. They will leave eventually, because what happens is the fan bases of all these teams that have been cocky and arrogant and have had so much success, eventually the NFL and sports is cynical. Meaning, your day is coming. Your day is coming. How many people last year sat there and said, it's a walk-in for Kansas City, and then the Eagles blasted them? How many times have we seen a Super Bowl or a championship game where we believe it's going to be one-sided, and it goes the opposite direction? And it kind of goes full circle to where I started the show. Like, all jokes aside, this team's offense right now has issues. They're stagnant. They're in trouble. And if they go into Dallas and Dallas puts up 35 points and the Philadelphia Eagles defense, gives up 400 something, 500 yards, and the offense musters 13, 16 points, and Jalen Hurts is sacked or he struggles, he throws a bad pick. A.J. Brown doesn't get his touches. Saquon, who we really haven't talked about, doesn't go off. Then the issue will be on Monday, is this team now in the midst of a tailspin? Forget about the game against the Detroit Lions. Honestly, forget about it. because they only scored 16 points against the Lions. They scored 10 points against the Packers. You want to chalk it up and say good defenses, that's fine. But you can't come on and tell me their offense is just as good as it was last year. You need to score in the NFL. Yeah, you got to get to the quarterback. You have to play defense come January, but you got to friggin' run the football. And now if I stack the box, I don't even have a threat of Saquon beating me, so I might not even do it. But oh, by the way, A.J. Brown can't get over the top because Jalen Hurts isn't giving him the football. They have problems right now, guys. They have problems. And they're not the only team. The Colts are banned up. Danny Nichols on their injury report. If Taylor goes down, they're done. The Green Bay Packers, they're having the same conversation in Green Bay when it comes to the Packers and their quarterback. They can't trust Jordan Love right now. Indianapolis, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Seattle, they're waiting for Darnold to turn into a pumpkin. So the Eagles are not the only team that's got issues right now. Teams are flawed. Buffalo can't stop the run. There are so many flawed teams, which only heightens and magnifies my point of get your shit together if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, because you can go back and repeat. So when everyone's coming at me saying stop hating, I'm actually making the case for them. I'm telling you guys right now, every team in the NFL is flawed, but I'll take my chances with the team that won it last year in Philadelphia because I saw their body of work. But they're trending down and they need to figure it out. That's all we are saying. They need to figure it out. And listen, if there is a gripe between a tight end and the running back, no one cares. No one cares. If there's an issue between a linebacker and a special teams, no one cares. Nobody cares. But now we're talking about the franchise quarterback, Super Bowl winning MVP, and the All-Pro wide receiver. And the other thing I will say is this. If this is more about Brown wanting his touches, his targets, his stats, and he's not going to be a team player, then you trade his ass. Sorry, because the franchise quarterback is not going anywhere. And I don't want to speculate. I have no idea what this is about. I mean, we can go old school like we used to on the street with our boys. And what are you arguing about back in the day? Right? You're arguing about either siblings, you're arguing about, a girlfriend, you're arguing about a girl, whatever. I don't even want to speculate. But if you're talking about something deeper than the X's and O's, then that means the beef, the gripe is personal. And then we have to figure out where does it stem from and how can it be resolved. Jalen Hurts says all the right things, and it bothers people because he's so vanilla with his comments, because he's so robotic. But Jalen Hurts wants to win. Jalen Hurts competes. He's a competitor. Jalen Hurts is a winner. He is a winner. But Jalen Hurts has also been slighted his entire career. I mean, that's just a fact. You can't dispute that. Over the last 10, 15 years in the NFL, has there ever been a quarterback that has been more disrespected and slighted than Jalen Hurts? If so, let me know. His numbers are not gaudy. His numbers are not sexy. His numbers aren't going to win you fantasy. They're not. But he's consistent. And he consistently wins. And when he has to make winning plays, more times than not, as a franchise quarterback, he makes winning plays. And he holds himself accountable. I've actually have been, too pro Jalen Hurts, I think sometimes. I've been accused of being too pro Jalen Hurts. Now, there are times I've been critical of Jalen Hurts. They were 10-1 and everything, kind of hit the fan and they lost to Tampa Bay. A lot of that was the offense and the play of Jalen Hurts. But then you bounce back, and I think I was the first one to say after they won that Super Bowl, that touchdown toss to Smith was an FU to the NFL and his haters and the media and everyone that doubted him. He's just a different kind of animal. but he holds himself accountable because that's what leaders do, because that's what franchise quarterbacks do. That's what franchise quarterbacks that are making 100, 200, $300 million, that's what they do. They stand up there and they take the bullets because you're under center, you're the recognizable face. And I'm not suggesting that A.J. Brown doesn't want to win. I'm not. But, the MO, fair or foul on a wide receiver, is what? They're divas. They're selfish. They want theirs. Look at the film. He broke his route. He didn't continue the route. He gave up on the ball. So you get the win on Sunday. Sure, it'll shut some people up for 1 week, but their problems still exist. And as I mentioned, you look around the NFL, a lot of teams have problems, but it's very rare that you have a 9-2 team, right? I keep saying 9-2, 8-2, forgive me. An 8-2 team that's the defending Super Bowl champs. And you've got some kind of drama like this. And here's the other thing that's really amazing. So, has anyone noticed that Saquon Barkley hasn't really said anything about, his touches, his reps, his snaps, his production? You're talking about a running back that carried the football 345 times last year, a running back that rushed for over 2,000 yards, a running back that averaged almost 6 yards a carry, who scored 13 touches, who was a big play threat every time he touched a friggin' football. This year, he's carried the ball a $176. He's averaging 3.8 yards a carry, which is, I think, second to a career low. I'm not going to count 2020. He only played 2 games that year for the Giants. He's only touched the end zone 4 times this season, and he's got 662 yards. I don't hear Saquon saying anything. And Saquon was a big engine in that cog last season for that offense, right? All right, so you got Thursday Night Football, kind of give you a little peekaboo, a little look ahead. You got the Bills on the road against the Texans, Steelers and the Bears. Aaron Rodgers still a little banged up. He's going to try to give it a go. The Pats and Cincy, I already told you, I don't know why Burrow's going to be out there. They're still 6-point dogs. All the stuff coming out of the Giants with Abdul Carter and these burner accounts. Listen, the Giants have to go on the road in a bad spot against a team that just lost. The Giants will get their doors blown off. They're going to get pounded in this game by Detroit. Be good to see Jackson Dart come back, but you also want to make sure he's healthy, passes all the tests, right, by all accounts, because he's practicing. It's all about trending, right? The one issue is that he was a non-contact participant, so you got to walk through and then travel. So we don't know if he's going to go. I'm sure Winston got some of the reps as well, but I want to see Jackson Dart out there. I really do. And as far as the Joe Shane and the X and whose account it is, it's just a colossal clown show right now for the Giants. And it's one of the reasons I think you have to fire the GM. I don't want this GM anywhere near draft picks. I just don't. I don't. Steer clear. Steer clear. Rest of the games, what do we got here? Vikings and the Packers. Green Bay laying 6. Seattle and the Titans. I know Vince was kind of steering clear of that game, 12.5. Titans got a boatload of problems. We talked a little bit about Cam Ward. I want to see how it plays out. This is a tough spot. They're a bad football team. I hope the kid can kind of grow in the position. Colts and the Chiefs. Now, this is an interesting game because this will have AFC South ramifications. And all of a sudden, Daniel Jones, surprise addition to the injury report, listed as a limited practice participant because of a calf injury. So that might limit his mobility when we're talking about the scrambling and the RPOs. Right now, he looks like he's a go. The line hasn't moved, so that tells me he'll be good to go. Kansas City's laying 3.5. Jets and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, we talked about his ankle issue. They're still laying 13.5. Shador gets to start on the road against the Raiders. The Raiders are now laying 4. I think that was 5.5 to 5. Now 4. Jags and Cardinals. Eagles and Cowboys. Line still sitting. Philly on the road favored by 3.5. Falcons and the Saints. No Penix for the Falcons. I mean, it's wow. Kirk Cousins. How about this? Captain Kirk. Captain Kurt under center for the Atlanta Falcons. Raheem Morris he's a dead man walking in Atlanta. Even though Arthur Blank really likes Raheem Morris, I don't know how you retain him. I don't. You got Tampa Bay and the Rams. That's going to be a hell of an 8:20 Sunday night football. And then Monday night football, Carolina and the 49ers. Good for Carolina. Little spotlight, little prime time. Bryce Young coming off 400 yards plus passing. The 49ers are laying 7 at home. The 49ers offense woke up big time against the Cardinals, scoring 41 after they gave up 42 against the Rams. So that's kind of your slate and your look at what's going on in the NFL this weekend. All right, quick timeout. We'll wrap it up on this Thursday edition. We'll get to some more of your comments as well. All right, welcome back, everyone. A couple minutes to play on a Thursday edition of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon, Jersey Shore Breaks. Get ready with tea and Play It Again Sports. You guys actually been following the NBA? I know it's kind of early, but I'm just kind of curious. What are we about 15 games in, 16 games in? How about Detroit 13-3, Toronto 10-5, Sixers are 6-6. Knicks got very lucky last night, by the way. They got bailed out by a horrible call against a very bad Dallas team. But I wanted to bring up the Sixers for a minute because this is, what we talked about with the back-to-backs and Embiid available and not available last night. And they suffered a loss against Toronto. They got the Bucks on the road tonight. I'm so over this load management. LeBron finally made a season debut for the Lakers. Lakers 11-4 right now, and they are first in the Pacific. If anyone cares, they are first in the Pacific. And I'll tell you something else. Their best, I think one of their sneaky moves, to be quite honest with you, DeAndre Ayton. I think he's creating a lot of spacing on the floor. If he gives them 15-10, they're going to be good. They're going to be okay. We mentioned Dallas, such a bad team right now. And you got some injuries going on in the NFL, in the NBA, pardon me. I think we start to see the NBA right around Christmas time. That's a couple weeks away. You kind of see where you're at with the NBA, obviously with college football, college basketball, and then the NFL that takes center stage. So still got a lot of season to go. Hot stove baseball, something we talked a little bit about the other day on the air, the needs of the Phillies, the Mets, and the Yankees. That is something we will get into a little more next week with Steve Garner. Jonathan Marshall is going to join me on Monday. We'll record that spot. We'll talk some hoops. And just a reminder, too, new edition of Overseas Dimes has dropped. That'll be posted on my YouTube channel as well as channel 82 in Bermuda. So you can check out that channel link. I'll put it up there. Give those guys support. They're really they're fantastic over there in Bermuda. We're happy that the show's there. Back Your Play will drop tomorrow on the YouTube channel. It'll be on Amazon, Spotify, Apple iTunes. It will air Saturday, Sunday, 11 to 12 on NY48 WWON. And tomorrow we'll be back in the saddle for a Friday edition of On Cue. Very heavy with the football tomorrow. A lot of games we want to dive into. Yes, we did not forget about college football. We've got some good matchups this weekend. Missouri, Oklahoma. You got Miami, Virginia Tech, USC and Oregon. That should be a good one as well. Notre Dame, I think they play at 3:30. They got Syracuse. You got some good games. TCU in Houston, Tennessee, Florida. So we'll run through the gamut. We'll do an updated Heisman watch, an updated NFL MVP watch, and then obviously we'll give you the picks and the plays. There are already 4 or 5 games in the NFL that I've kind of mapped out that I really want to go heavy tomorrow on. As for tonight, the Bills have shown you that they're very susceptible to the ground game. You can run on the Buffalo Bills, but it's a big test. Now, there's for those that were asking, I know Madman was asking about Joe Mixon. He's not expected to return this season, so they do miss that veteran back. The Texans have been able to run the football, right? Chubb's giving them a little something. Mark's giving them a little something, averaging about 4.5. They need to shorten the field. They need to keep Buffalo's offense off the field. It just, Josh Allen, you needed Josh Allen to remind everyone why he's the league MVP. And then what does he do? He goes out and he accounts for 6 touchdowns last week. He was absolutely magnificent. I mean, I think only it's happened twice in the NFL, and Josh Allen has done it twice. 3 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns, accounting for all these touchdowns. What was it? He accounted for, 3 passing, 3 rushing. He's done it twice. I think it's only been done one other time in NFL history, and he's done it twice. He's a great quarterback. What's really, we talk about the drama going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, listen, Buffalo Bills have some drama, right? I mean, you're talking about arguably one of their best players, and he's benched again. It's just wow. It's just unbelievable, right? I mean, this is what happens if you're not playing at a high level. So Keon Coleman is going to be inactive, 2nd consecutive game. And he's fallen so out of favor with Buffalo. He's got to be better. So they've got a little bit of adversity. You're talking about a wide receiver that came in as your number 2 wideout. Now, he still had a big game without Coleman. They put up 44 against the Bucs. So they're going to go a little mixed bag here. I like the kid Shakir and I like Gabe Davis. They're pretty good wideouts. They're solid and they're pros. But I do like Buffalo tonight. The way their offense, I kind of clicked last week. Houston, it's definitely a down year. I give them credit. They bounced back after they had that loss to the Broncos. They won 2 straight against Jacksonville. They just got through a bad Texans team. I'm not sold on, right now you're going into a game tonight where you'd much rather have CJ Stroud. Mills is a proven veteran. But again, Stroud's ruled out because of the concussion. So who knows when he's going to be cleared to play. I just like Buffalo tonight. That's a game that we talked about. If you want to take the Bills serious coming out of the AFC, got to win this football game. And obviously you're chasing the Patriots right now. So we'll dive into these games tomorrow, 5 or 6 really highlighted ones. We're going to break a little early tonight. We got to call the game in about an hour plus, but don't forget, lock it in. Keep me locked in on social media at Rich Q on IG, on TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. Always get social with me. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Heavy Football Friday tomorrow. John Bueller, Lloyd Vance. We'll run through all these games. We'll dive into college. We'll mix in a little hot stove baseball and some NBA. Thursday night football. Enjoy it. Good stuff with the comments and the engagement as always. And just a reminder, we're powered by our wonderful friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea, fresh roasted coffee, and of course, Played Again Sports, 2 locations, Mount Laurel and Deptford. Have a good Sports Thursday. We will talk to you mañana on a What the Frig Friday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.